Thank you for joining us today for the 22nd episode of the Meander Travel Podcast and part 2 of our epic Egyptian adventure. If you listen to part 1, you know that we already covered the capital city of Cairo. In this episode, we'll tell you all about our relaxing and exciting river cruise on the mighty Nile, with stops along the way at artisan shops and colorful markets and iconic temples and ancient tombs that will blow your mind. What we are about to share are some of the coolest things we've ever done, and they're moments that will stay with us forever. Please come along with us as we cruise Africa's longest river and come face to face with none other than King Tut himself. Wheels up!
We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Well, I'm Tony, and this is my wife, Julie.
Hello.
We are here. Let's just say we're not in Egypt. We are in England. we are in London. We are on a recording studio called the Boat Pod, and we are in Little Venice, in a community inside of London, on the canals, where they have a recording studio that we saw. It's really neat. It's kind of compare the area to like Amsterdam, where you see these canal longboats,
Like a really mini Amsterdam, like a
very mini. And Little Venice in this area was named by the poet Robert Browning after his time touring in Italy.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of historical context before we jump into Egypt, just
Right.
because you can see where we are. We're on camera in a really cool place instead of being in our own house.
Yes, this is good for the first time in a long time.
Well, we recorded once in Italy, but otherwise we've been in our own home. So this is a really unique opportunity. We're excited to be here. But yeah, so apparently Robert Browning lived in this area in the late 19th century, and these canals were created even earlier in the 1700s to carry goods and things, for trade purposes. But now this area is full of some really neat boat pods like this and other boats that people can live on, and there's some little coffee shops and privately owned. It's just a really, really cool area. So we're excited to be here today.
This particular longboat is what is named the Boat Pod, is a recording studio that Julie and I, when we were walking through this area for a Vikings game 1 year ago, we were walking along here having coffee, and all of a sudden we said, look at that. We do a podcast. We should record on this Boat Pod. And we're like, yeah, when are we going to do that,
How
right?
cool would that be someday?
Someday. Well, fast forward 1 year, and we're here for another Vikings game because the Minnesota Vikings play in London again, and we booked this up, and we're very excited to be able to be here. We got a producer. We got Tom doing our video, and we got Sophie and Roxy, and JJ just left, so there's a whole crew. They're helping us out.
Feels very official.
We get to see people walking by the outside. It's pretty incredible.
It's very cool. Yeah.
And how often do you get to record on a boat?
No, never before. Very cool. So yes, we're going to actually talk about our Egypt trip. And since we have gotten home from this trip, we look at each other time and time again and look at our photos and say, can you believe?
Jaw drop.
Can you believe that we actually did that like that? It was just so cool. Didn't you think?
It was amazing. I mean, you gobstock. You just can't even fathom that you get to see these things.
It was one of those trips you think you're never going to do, and we got invited along, and it was just phenomenal. So let me tell you a little bit more about, our last podcast, we talked about Cairo and the pyramids and that kind of stuff. So this one, we're going to tell you about the second portion, which was the really cool cruise down the Nile that we did. But just so you know, we did book this trip through a company called Gate One. Let me say right now, we are not Gate One advertisers. This is just the tour group that we happen to be with. We do think they did a phenomenal job. But to give you some frame of reference, if you're comparing and contrasting different tours, we took the 12-day Crown of Egypt with a 7-day Nile cruise. Now, we did call and book this trip directly, just because when you're looking at this stuff, you have so many questions. Like an online thing can only answer so much. So we did call directly so that we could talk to their friendly agents, ask questions that could help us determine what we wanted to do. We also were traveling with friends, so we wanted our reservations to be linked for whatever reason. That's kind of a helpful thing to do.
Yeah, and Gate One, along with probably like every other cruise travel tour company, they give you discounts if you do more than one with them. Like this is our second one or Julie's third one, whatever.
Yeah.
You get a You can get a referral discount program where you get $50 per person discount for new customers. So, hey, you want to bring some friends with you? You're going to get a discount. They're going to get a discount, so that's good. And that goes for probably all tour companies. The travel credit, that helps, brings your cost down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a perk.
And we got to do this, with an agent and not online. We talked to somebody. They walked us through the whole program. So if you have any fears or questions, you can ask the question anytime, and they'll be able to give you all the answers.
Yeah, and so another thing to think about when you are booking this trip, because these are the questions that I had when I was looking at the website, so I thought it was important to pass it along. When you are looking at the website, there is going to be a trip-only fee and then also like a with airfare fee. And so you kind of wonder, well, I don't know which one is better. Like, we have a lot of points and miles saved up, so we think, oh, we'll do it on our own. Turns out that's not always the best option. So, and also the trip is always going to book, or actually it's going to be, the price is listed from New York City. They're going to base everything off New York City.
But they can find you to wherever you live in the U.S., let's say, very good comparable rates.
Of course. Well, I mean, you might have a little bit of a supplement depending on where you live. One time I traveled with them, we're in Minneapolis. I did not have to pay a supplement because it was the same price as going out of New York City because we were in a hub. The second time when we did this Egypt trip, we did have a little bit of a supplement where we had to pay a little extra because we were coming out of Minneapolis. Not a big deal, totally fine. You can also let them know which airlines you prefer to travel with. So if you only want to use Delta or United or whatever, you can do that. But all in all, we did debate maybe not doing the airfare and decided to go with it because if you don't use their airfare, then you also don't get their transfers
from the airports. And when you're talking Cairo or these countries that you're not familiar with the language, and they're aggressive with their taxi drivers and whatnot, you might be in for it if you don't know where you're going or how to get there.
And you arrive sometimes in the middle of the night. It is so nice to somebody's got a sign. They're like, welcome. You go over to them. They take your bags. They put you in a nice bus. They take you to the hotel. They take your bags inside. You would not get that if you did airfare on your own. And also, if there were any hiccups with your flight, something was canceled, something was delayed, you got there late, you're all on your own.
Right.
The company is like, you booked your own airfare, you have to get to the origination destination in that country, wherever you're going to. So that's sometimes just a stressor you don't need.
With that logistics, and they actually handle all your luggage. They do everything. So you got a bunch of backpacks or big suitcases, they're going to take it for you. They grab as soon as you get off the plane, basically. They grab it, they put it on the buses or in the cars, whatever. They do it all themselves, and they troubleshoot all of that.
And they pay for the porters. They do all the tipping and stuff. You don't even have to do any of that, which is so nice.
Gate 1 is, they say that they see more of the world for less. And we had previously booked a trip to Cairo and whatnot on a different company. We'll just leave it unnamed. And it was almost triple the price of the one we ended up doing with Gate 1. So, and pretty comparable of what we see and do. Because when you get down to it, where you go, when you get down to this cruise part, it's all very similar. Very similar. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into that a lot in detail because it's very unknown for people to not know, hey, we're going to go on this river cruise down the Nile. Where does it go? All the same. They all go to the same places. So It just depends on what style boat, what your perks are, and all that stuff. So, and ours was awesome. So I can't decide where they're gonna, they're gonna give us better top shelf liquor. I mean, maybe, I don't know. So that's not worth the money, the triple. So
no, we got an incredibly good deal, I thought, for what we got. So just to kind of give you a better idea, so we did the first 3 days of our trip were in Cairo. As we already said, we kind of did the pyramids and all that stuff. But we weren't on our own in Cairo. We were still with the tour company. They facilitated all of our transportation and our programs and our entrance fees to sites and stuff there. So that was kind of nice. But the entire package altogether also included the Nile cruise. So just to know everything that was included, it was our round trip flights to and from Minneapolis to Cairo. Then there's domestic flights because we flew from Cairo to Luxor where we picked up the boat.
And this is what most people don't understand or think about when they think about going to Egypt and going to see the pyramids and then going on a boat cruise. They think that you're in Cairo, you see the pyramids and you get on a boat and you go down and you see these other things and you come back. No, you're getting on a plane in Cairo after you've seen all the stuff in Cairo. You're flying to the south of Egypt to Luxor, getting off of the plane and then getting on a boat and going even farther south down to basically to the Sudan border. Yeah. And then back up to Luxor and then you fly back.
Right. So it's a lot going on, which is why it's nice to be on a tour. So in addition to the flights, then we also had first class accommodations. We had really nice hotels. There was not a single complaint I would have about those hotels. The company pays for all your hotel taxes and fees. And like I said, the tips for the porters or bellhops. And then you have the 7-day cruise, covers the port charges, covers all of your transfers to and from. It has 27 meals included. I think it was breakfast and dinner almost every single day. Some lunches were out.
We ate so much.
Oh my gosh, seriously, we were stuffed. It was unbelievable. We had air-conditioned, really nice luxury coach buses. That had restrooms, which is always a perk. And then it also included our entrance fees to all these different historical sites and tombs and museums. And then the best part is we had the most awesome guide maybe on the face of the planet.
Omar.
I would pay a lot for somebody like him.
Yeah.
His 37 years of experience traveling, he knows everybody. He goes into the marketplaces and shops. He knows everyone. It was amazing to have him. So that was worth it all by itself.
So let's talk about the boat, the cruise ship. And you know, people think about these cruise ships and they think about these ocean liner cruise ships, and that's what people have in mind when they think about going on a cruise boat. This is not. This is a giant rectangle that sits in the middle of the Nile.
That's a great way.
It looks like a rectangle.
It does, yeah.
A floating rectangle. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason for that. The boats, all the cruise ships and there's
310
or 309 in all of Egypt, and that's a lot. There was only like 90 or something like that going when we were there, because we were the first group out of the year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was only 90.
Holy moly.
Exactly. That means when there's 310, there's a lot. Because it seemed like there was a lot because we were all going to and from the same places.
There was always people adjacent, or not people, but other ships kind of adjacent to us, in front of us, behind us. I can't imagine having triple.
So let's explain. Ours was called the MS Esplanade. That was the name of our boat. It holds 150 people, which is great. I think they have like about that in service people, you know, that are on the boat, running the boats, doing all the engines, steering.
I don't know
servers.
if they all work multiple jobs.
They're all doing a lot of different
like
jobs.
Your cabin guy shows up in the dining room.
These boats. Now, when I say it's a rectangle, the reason why that is because when they pull into ports, they pull up sideways to each other and they dock against each other because there's limited space along the shorelines on the Nile at these sites. So you might have 6 or 7 boats stacked sideways, and it is window to window. Like if you opened up your curtain and looked out, you could reach out and hold hands with the person in the window across from you. But you don't do that because when you're in port, you're going off and you're doing sites and you're coming back on. So it's really a non-issue. We thought it was going to be a big deal. It wasn't a problem at all. It was more fun to go down through your boat into the lobby and then say, we want to get on shore, and then have to go through the lobbies of 5 or 6 other boats through their lobby sideways in the middle of the boat to get onto the shoreline.
And it was very rare that I saw a boat that I thought was prettier than ours.
Well, that's because our boat, this is the first tour out of the season, and they had just renovated the entire top deck, the sun deck. So we had all these beautiful sunbeds and tables and chairs and plunge pool. And anybody you talk to, the guides and these people from the boats, they all say that currently it is the best sun deck on the Nile, which we got lucky.
Including over the Viking ships, which is another high-end company, and ours was better. It was so premium. It was so beautiful up there. It was great.
One thing about, and then to just describe a little bit about what it's like on the Nile. I had envisioned in my mind, I don't know why, I thought it was just going to be like seeing some farming along the shoreline and then deserts, and that's it for like the entire trips. You know, it's the Nile. You're thinking it's out in the deserts. It's in Egypt. No, Egypt is extremely populated and industrialized, and there is huge cities that you pass through. And like our guide would say, "Oh yeah, that's a small city. That's only 800,000." I'm like, "What?" And then the next time, like, "Oh, that one's got 3 million." And you're thinking to yourself, "Okay, back in home, that's the size of our capital city in our state, kind of thing." These are huge cities on the Nile, which it's been around forever. So of course, you know, since history of humans, right? This is where people traveled, so it has grown up a lot.
Well, and the Nile is life-giving. So everybody, if they're not living in the capital city of Cairo or down in Aswan, they're living along the Nile because that is where they're getting water and nutrients and trade and all the things that they need. So it makes sense that there wasn't a lot of areas that didn't have people or buildings.
But let's be clear though. A lot of it though is wonderful, marshlands and farming and jungles right along the river. Birds, lots of birds. Thank God. And then a lot of it is because it's right where the water is, and then right outside of that you get the dunes and you get the sand and you get the desert. And you can see it from all over when you're on these boats.
And sometimes the sand dunes are quite high. And so you're literally seeing like lush shore and then whoop up to massive sand dunes. Whoop.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's a really cool thing to see. It's different than any other kind of topography that you normally see.
Describe the boat and how it's laid out, because that's another issue.
Yeah, so when you first walk onto the ship, I don't even know if they're called ships really, but when you first walk on, you're actually walking on like level 2.
Right.
Which is the entryway, and there's a bi-level foyer, so it's nice and open and airy, and that's where you talk in the morning with your tour guide. This is what we're going to do today. There's couches and tables. Right off that, there's a lounge where we had some nightly entertainment sometimes, and there was a bar if you wanted to get cocktails, which I don't think we did on our own a single time because we were so tired. But then the lowest level, is down where the large dining room is. And right away on the first night, you're kind of assigned a table, and that gets to be your spot for the whole week. So you get to know your servers, and that was kind of nice. You get to know their names. Then level 3 going up, there's a library and some sitting areas, and then that's the level where the C and D staterooms were. And then you go up one more level to level 4, and the A and B staterooms are there. And on our ship, there was also a cute little jewelry shop there as well that Tony and I end up getting some really spectacular hieroglyphic necklaces from that were our cherished souvenir. And then, of course, what you already mentioned, the top level deck, the deck was on level 5. So that's kind of how you look at the ship when it's stacked.
Okay, so we started in Luxor. Why don't you explain why we started in Luxor, and we'll go from there south and explain our spots.
Well, we started in Luxor because it's just expedites everything. A lot of the major sites that you want to see in Egypt are from Luxor to Aswan. A lot of the big temples. So you just get from Cairo to Luxor, and it just kind of cuts off that time and space, and so you just expedite everything by starting in Luxor. So that was kind of just an easy thing to do.
So in Luxor is where we go to our first site, and that was the Temple of Karnak. It's on the East Bank, and the East Bank and West Bank is a big deal on the Nile, and you'll learn all about that when you're on these tours, is that because one's, the dead, the west side, that's where they bury people, that's where the tombs are, and the east side is life, because that's where life begins with the rising sun.
And that's where the temples are, where you worship and praise.
The Temple of Karnak is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which a lot of you know that we love to go and visit. And for over 3,000 years, there was the Temple of Karnak, which is dedicated to Amun-Ra. And there's the Avenue of the Sphinxes there, which is something you got to see, and you will if you go and visit. But it's 1,058 statues lining both sides of a road that goes from the Temple of Karnak all the way down to the other temple, which is at the other end. Mm-hmm. And it's like 1.5 miles, 2 miles, mm-hmm. and it's over 1,000 sphinxes sitting on the side.
It's pretty cool. I mean, some of
them
are missing their heads, or
there's a lot missing.
They're missing parts of them, but it doesn't matter. There's some that are intact, but it is just lined up from one temple at one end to the temple at the other, and that part is super cool.
And for people that don't know, a sphinx is a lion's body, which represents the strength, and then the human head for intelligence.
Yeah, and obviously it's a symbol that is carried through Egypt. They have huge sphinx up by the pyramids. But another thing about the Temple of Karnak, when you walk in, there's something called Hypocele Hall, and they have 134 of these absolutely massive. How long around do you think those things are? 6 feet around? I don't know.
I love that fact that Julie's trying to hold her arms out right now, trying to describe how big they are.
I gesticulate. I gesticulate when I talk. So 134 massive, intricately carved columns. It's just something to see, and it's really nice because they throw off a lot of shade. And let's be clear.
We need shade.
This temple is huge. It is an absolutely massive property. It's a lot to see and a lot to do, and it's very hot. But it also has, I think, a couple obelisks there. And there are others that have been stolen from this site. So those have ended up in Rome and in Istanbul. And then there is one in Paris, but that one was gifted
Right.
to the Parisians from the Egyptians.
And I have a new want or a new thing that I want to try acquire.
Oh my gosh, you want to collect something?
I want to
that's
collect
in
something new. I want to collect visiting the obelisks that are outside of Egypt, so that you can say you've seen them all. So that you've
So
seen
we're
them.
already trying to do concerts and coliseums. You already collect seas that you swim in, and now you want to go see obelisks
Right,
too.
because we've already got a head start. We've seen some of these obelisks. So it's going to be kind of fun to try and get to the last ones to say that we've seen all of the obelisks that are in Egypt and outside.
So just as a reminder, when you do go to a place like Karnak, you need to make sure that you have a hat and sunglasses and preferably a fan or 2 or 3 like I had. It is incredibly hot. It can get to be up to 120 degrees in Egypt. So, and you're standing outside sometimes for a long time in that heat and without shade.
That
So-
goes for every site in Egypt down south. I mean, it's not just Karnak. I mean,
So true.
Have it for everywhere.
So true. It's just that temple is so large that you really need to like pack everything that day. But another thing that we did after that temple that was really cool is we went to a papyrus workshop. And let's just be clear about this. So you are going to be going to multiple different artisan shops along the way. They kind of seem like a little bit of a tourist trap. And I'm sure that whatever tour company takes you there gets a little bit of a commission. However, I actually think they're phenomenal places to go anyway, because you are going to be seeing authentic artisan methods. Like in this papyrus workshop, for example, they will show you how they take a papyrus reed that grows on the banks of the Nile. They will cut, peel, overlap these reeds. They create a paper out of it. It's super cool. And they can decide what size they want it to be. And then once it dries, they make a painting out of it. And it is absolutely beautiful. So if you want a souvenir to put in your home, to hang, to remind you of your trip, or for whatever reason, it is a really stunning piece of art. And it's from thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago, they made things the exact same way.
Yeah, they're doing all of the papyrus paper now in the exact same fashion that they did that.
Yes, so even though, yes, they're bringing you to this place, you are getting a really authentic, beautiful souvenir. And it's kind of a win-win for everybody, in my opinion. The artisans get to sell their goods. The tour company probably gets a cut. I don't even care. And there's no pressure when you go to these places.
None.
We went to a perfume shop. There's a carpet shop you go to. There's an alabaster place that you could get to go to. There's multiple different things. You choose whether or not you want something there or not. If you don't want to, it's fine. There was no pressure. But I thought they were beautiful stops along the way that just add to your knowledge and history of the area.
So on these tours, when you go to Karnak and then you go off to the papyrus workshop stuff, just so you know, if you're worried about like, hey, how do you stay together with your group? You got a whole bunch of people on a boat and they're all getting off and going with the tour guide. They have what they call them with our guide was whispers, which is basically a little headset and earphones, and then you get to listen to him talk, but you don't have to be right there next to him. So let's say you're looking at some big statue, but you want to walk over there and look. You can still listen to your guide talk in this area with the whole group, kind of go walk about, see some other stuff, or linger longer somewhere because you really found it fascinating and still hear your guide, and the only problem that it doesn't help is when they said, hey, we're over here, and you're like, that doesn't mean anything when you're just hearing them. So it's just in your ears.
Well, and
So-
for us, it was nice because we are big picture takers.
Right.
We're big into photography. And so sometimes we want to stand off to the side, get away from the group, try to get photos without people in it. And that was nice to be able to listen and hear everything. We weren't missing out, but we could kind of, like you said,
And we want them to get out of the
linger
way.
back or whatever so that we could get our photos.
Also, just so you understand these tours, we take these tours really early in the morning because you got to get up, and sometimes very early, because the intense heat in the afternoon, and they don't like to be doing any of the tours in the afternoon. So a daily routine would look like this. You get up really early, go down, have breakfast.
So by that, you mean probably like a 7 a.m. breakfast. Sometimes.
Yeah, 7 a.m. And then you're off the boat and you're in either on a bus or you're at the site, because some of the sites are right on the shore, right where you're at.
Literally walk off and walk out.
Then when you're done with the tour, just around midday, you return to the ship right to the food. You go in and you go downstairs into the bottom of the boat and you have your lunch, and then you go and rest. Some people like to go up on the sun deck, like we did.
Like every day.
And then around 4 p.m., there's tea and snacks. You go down and meet and talk with other people. That's sometimes on the sun deck, depending on if it's too hot.
They had this really lovely hibiscus tea.
It's
like
really
it's a
good.
Red, I don't know, it was so good.
And it mixes very well with gin or vodka.
Turns out, yeah, we found that out.
But it's an Arab nation that they don't do a lot of drinking, so it's not like they
Muslim
provide
nation.
you with
They because they're Muslim, they do not drink alcohol, and so you can't.
But they do have it for tourists. So.
Well, yes, they do, of course.
Then dinner comes around usually around 7 p.m. and it's buffet or pre-order depending on the day. Sometimes they'll do a buffet, and it is seriously a ton of food.
Yeah.
And then, or the next night they might do hey, you pre-ordered your meal at breakfast, so you know what you're going to get. And then, the food was outstanding. The quality was great. The quantity is way too much.
Mm-hmm. We actually put that on our comment card. Not so much food.
Yeah.
Which is
We
crazy,
don't want to
I'm
waste
sure.
it.
But we felt wasteful. Okay, so the temples obviously are what you're here for when you're doing this cruise. They're phenomenal. But we're not going to go through every single temple that we saw.
Because there's so many.
We'd be here till tomorrow. So I'll just mention, a few that we saw. So the Temple of Kamombo, the Temple of Philae, which I missed. We'll talk about that later. But the Temple of Edfu, which is the most complete one, I believe. And the Temple of Hatshepsut, which that takes a while to learn how to say that word, let me tell you.
And that's why Julie's saying it and not me.
So each of these are unique in their own way. They each have their own history. They have their something that's special about them. But they all have really cool hieroglyphics, which we started to learn what some things meant and the cartouches and things like that. It was really cool. But again, we're not going to go too in-depth on all of that. But we will tell you some things that are not to miss.
So also about those, just those sites. Yeah, Kamombo was this all about crocodiles and on the Nile and just these, that king of that. Edfu is breathtaking because it's so intact, it's so big and so cool. What's it? Hot chicken soup.
Hot chicken soup is a way to remember to say Hatshepsut.
Hatshepsut. Nobody in our group could say it, and the guy says it's easy for tourists just to say hot chicken soup. Okay.
No, but that one I will say too, that is a beautiful temple on the outside. Yeah. It's a really, really super long walkway and it was hot. You can actually take a carriage ride. We hoofed it because we're like, we can do it. It's beautiful on the outside. Interior, not so much. So if you actually had to cut one out, that's the one I would cut out.
And it's kind of weird because it's one that you see a lot on postcards or pictures of Egypt or something. It's when you see it's got this big rectangle wide building at the base of a cliff. And
all the
goes,
columns.
Wow, it's one of the newer ones. It's not super, super old in that respect, and it's been rebuilt. So it's not original.
The problem was Hatshepsut's stepson was so mad at her that he degraded the entire interior of that temple. So much of it has been destroyed that the interior is not nearly as good. So you could drive by it, get a photo. Don't take all the time to go up there and be like, okay, check. Just saying.
Let's talk about the not misses. You absolutely must sees. Yes. First is Abu Simbel, and it's an optional. It's usually an optional excursion for these cruise ships because when you get to the very, very southern part of the river where you can go up to the Aswan Dam, which is in the town of Aswan, that's where the big dam is, and then Lake Nasser is south of that, and it is huge. That tour to get down to Abu Simbel, that temple, is 3.5 hour bus ride down and then a 3.5 hour bus ride back. Yeah. And I'll just say it's so worth it. I mean, knowing
not
you're going to be
bus ride.
No, just putting up with the 7 hours in a day in bus is worth to go and see it.
100%.
You got to see it.
It's crazy that it's even considered an optional excursion. It's just that so many people might not want to schlep, on a long bus ride. It was no big deal. You sleep on it because you get up so early in the morning for this tour. So early. So you sleep on the bus. They stop halfway through. It's totally not a big deal. You get to go to a coffee shop or whatever.
There's one midway stop. There's one store. It's a stop for buses and for bathroom and coffee, and that's it.
Yeah, and I was afraid to have any coffee. I don't know. Take your chances on that kind of stuff. But so Abu Simbel, let's describe this a little bit. It's really neat because when you walk up to it, you're actually behind it. So you can't see anything until you turn the corner. And really, you should video your friends as they come around because your jaw drops, your eyes get wide. It is absolutely humongous. It's humongous. Ramsey II was in love with himself. And he's got a whole bunch of his own statues there with his queen. I mean, I think it's one of the other gods that's next to him, Horus. But it is jaw-dropping. And what's really cool about this is Lake Nasser is right there. It's largest.
Right on the shore. Yeah.
It's right on the shores of Lake Nasser. And that is the world's largest man-made lake that was created by all of the overflow when they made the dam. But what they found out was they needed to move this amazing temple in order to save it because it was going to be flooded by this dam creation. So
that's funny the way you say it.
By this dam creation. So they didn't just move the temple; they moved the mountains that they were on. And there's not one temple; there's actually two. So the two together are called Abu Simbel.
They moved both mountains. Yeah.
So it's like this ancient wonder, technological wonder, and then also a modern day technological wonder because they moved the entire mountain.
Just so people understand, so when they built this dam, they built this giant dam, and then they started to fill this lake. They had sites. There are sites all over southern Egypt where these temples are, but they were going to all be completely flooded. So, heritage and cultural groups got together and said, "Hey, we need to save these. How do we do it?" And there was multinational groups came in to say, "We need to preserve these unbelievable sites." And everybody has seen the picture of Abu Simbel. They just maybe don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
And what they did is, so it was when the lake is full up to where it is right now, and where the temple sits right now, it was about 160 meters out into the lake and straight down.
Or would have been.
Would have been. That's where it was.
Yeah.
They went down there before the lake was filled up. They cut the mountain completely out and took everything, moved it up onto the new shore above where the water level would be, and then built the mountain all around this site. It's all the original.
Back again.
It's
It
incredible.
took them like 4 years, and I think it was like 80 countries all contributed money because they recognized this as history for the world.
Right.
Not just Egyptian history, but it is something so special. So it was an immense project, and you just look at it and go, "Are you kidding me? How in the heck did they do this?" It was just so cool. And so next to the Ramses II temple is the temple he built for his wife, Queen Nefertari. Yeah, Nefertiti.
So in Aswan, back where you kept the boat is sitting, there's a lot of other things to do because Aswan's pretty cool. It's a big, big town. We actually went to the local market afterwards and we kind of walked around. That was really cool. And it was very safe and vibrant. It was a lot of fun, a lot of really great people.
We walked around by ourselves.
Never felt uncomfortable.
Nope.
We got to, go shopping for the clothes and produce and spices. They're really good for spices down there. And then because we were having parties, we bought a galabea. I bought a traditional, I don't want to say, it's kind of a robe. It's kind of,
I was trying to think of the word.
It?
I was sitting there in the coffee shop trying to think, what do you actually call that garment? It is like, it's like a robe or like a men's long dress kind of, but it's thicker.
Shame on us for not knowing, but it goes from the ankles right to the shoulder.
Well, it's called a galabea, but I don't know what we would say it in our terminology.
And I look good in it.
You look good anywhere. You're like, this is really comfortable.
I'm keeping it.
He said, I'm going to wear this at home. I'm like,
Yep.
Sure you are. He hasn't yet, but to be fair, we haven't been home for very long.
Right.
So we'll see.
We got home from
Egypt,
Egypt, and 1 week later we're in Ireland and now in London. So
yeah. Well, so it was fun. So we did have a party where we all dress up in our Egyptian clothing. I actually got a dress beforehand, which was kind of cool. I found it before we even got to Egypt, and I think it was true Egyptian, so that was kind of neat. So some nights we had stuff going on, and other times we just relaxed. But another cool excursion that we did do in Aswan that's worth mentioning is we got to take a little boat cruise. So now you're in a small boat right on the Nile, so you're up close and personal with the Nile. We cruised around this really cool area called Elephantine Island to a Nubian village. And the Nubians are ancient peoples of southern Egypt and northern Sudan, and their villages are super colorful. They have like these mud brick style of architecture that they paint with really pretty colors, and it's a beautiful place to see. They're extremely warm and welcoming. We got to go inside a Nubian home and learn about their way of life and their culture, and their crocodiles.
Yes, a lot of crocodiles.
Kind of are all over.
They had them in their house.
They have live ones in a pen, and then lots of stuffed ones on the walls for part of their decor. It's very interesting, but it was authentic and intimate, and a really lovely time experiencing the Nile up close.
All right, the other absolute must-see, in our opinion, on the Nile cruise is the Valley of the Kings. Now, this is located in Luxor, and you don't do it in the first part. I think they save it for you to the end. But people could do it in different routes, but you start in Luxor, you go on your boat cruise, you go down to Aswan, and then you come back up to Luxor, then you get off and you fly back to Cairo.
Yep, so now we're back up in Luxor.
We're back up in Luxor.
All the way down.
We're just about to be done with the cruise. We're still on the boat, but we're using it as a jump-off spot to go to the last thing to see, and that would be the Valley of the Kings, which is on the west bank of the Nile, because that's where all the dead people are. And the history behind it, it's an absolute must-do, and it is so fascinating to see what we saw. It has it all.
It does have it all. So, I mean, this is the burial site of... There's 63 tombs they have found so far. Not all of them are pharaohs. Some of them are queens. Some of them are other things as well. But I can't even tell you how cool it is to when you drive in and you see these little cutouts in the rocks, and you know that those are tombs when you go into them. Your ticket entry when you go into the Valley of the Kings includes 3 tombs. So you can choose. And they're kind of open on a rotating basis. Not all tombs are open every day, but most of the really important ones are probably open most of the time. But you get to choose 3. And the reason you choose is because some of them they're longer, or maybe they have really steep steps. And if you're somebody who doesn't do steps well, that might be one you would forego for a different one. So your tour guide can help you choose which 3 would be best for you. But then you also can buy a separate ticket, and that would be for the King Tut experience, and then also Ramses the 6th. Ramses the 6th, I think.
There's a lot of Ramses.
Oh my gosh, there are a lot of Ramses. But yeah, so King Tut's tomb, seriously, I've been fascinated with Egypt my whole life since I was a child. I know I kind of preempted him. I was just so excited to talk about King Tut because it's so cool. But it's a smaller tomb. It's not nearly as long as the other ones, but it's really unique because his mummy is still inside. I'll just carry on myself.
Julie, this is Julie's podcast now.
Who needs you? No, seriously, it's the only tomb that's still occupied by its original owner. And it was just so cool to like walk down in there and you see him sitting in this glass case, and like I said,
which we didn't expect.
No, I don't know why we didn't think that. It was really cool.
Well, none of the other tombs have any bodies in them, or they're all cleared out, right? They've all been taken and everything's been taken out. When they found King Tut's tomb, it was completely intact. It's the only one that was completely intact. Everything else has been robbed in the Valley of the Kings prior by tons of people. But nobody knew where this one tomb was. In fact, people didn't even know it was there, or that could be there. One guy found it. Actually, a donkey found it. Anyways, he stepped a foot into a hole and kind of opened up into it. But anyways, let's paint the picture a little bit of what the Valley of the Kings is, because people are like, what do you mean the Valley of the Kings?
Yeah, and it actually did look different than I thought it would. So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so when you come off the river and you go on your bus and you kind of come up, you got all these cliffs on the west bank, and they're really high cliffs, and you drive up a kind of ravine up into a valley on these cliffs, and it is just blah rock. I mean, it just looks all the same. It's just cliff, and that's what it was, and that's what it was intended for, and that's why they buried all these bodies there, is because they were trying to hide these bodies so that nobody could ever find them. They were there to preserve themselves for the afterlife, and that's all they don't want anybody coming and visiting these things. That's not what they were designed for. They were designed to hide 63 tombs, probably a whole lot more. They just haven't found them.
They believe there's lots.
So you drive up and you come up in this valley. If there was nobody there, you would just be walking on a path in the middle of a ravine, kind of, with just rock, nothing else there. And then now they have little concrete bunker dugouts where you can go down and in. And then when you walk in, these are shafts. They're not like just a room right there. They are sometimes a quarter mile long, 300 yards long, different lengths, and they go straight into the mountain on the cliff sides, and they just keep on going down and down and down until you get to a burial chamber where they have put the king, the pharaoh, whatever, and all of their belongings for the afterlife, and they put them in there. King Tut still had all of his in there. And everybody's seen the mask, everybody's seen the coffin, all that stuff, that, the gold mask.
Not in real life.
Right. That's a different story, but it wasn't available to see when we were in Egypt. But anyways, but the valley has so many of these. And you get to go into like 3 or 4. I think we got to do 5. And
we did 3, and then you had to buy the extra ticket for King Tut and the other Ramses. But we're here.
So we saw 5 of the 63, and they rotate them. We didn't know this. Some you're going to get lucky. If it's a really good one, you're like, you want to see that one? That might not be available on that day that you go. So King Tut is always available, but you have to pay extra. But other ones are always mishmashed.
Well, in his tomb, there was over 5,000 artifacts found. And most of them now are going to be in the Grand Egyptian Museum on display in the next month, probably. And the reason why he's so famous, why King Tut is so famous, is because of all the stuff that they were found with him.
Yeah,
and it's
wasn't
really
even that important of a
king. He wasn't. No, but he's important to history because they learned so much about Egyptian history and burial processes and just all the things because of his tomb.
That's right.
That was found in 1920 or 21 by Howard Carter.
So, a must-do?
A must-do. Unbelievable.
Probably the single... Julie and I talk about this. What's the single most important thing you saw in all of Egypt?
If I could only do one thing, and I'm talking about the pyramids as well. Pyramids, Abu Simbel, all the things, I would just go do Valley of the Kings. Because I feel like it's going to give you that bang for your buck, the experience of seeing. What's really impactful about it is because they've been sealed for 3,000 years, they're intact. They're completely intact. You go to the other temples and sites.
The temples are above ground.
They're there, but none of the colors are there anymore. You don't really know what it looked like back then. You have to use your imagination.
Well, they faded over 3,000 years. Whereas these
erosion.
tunnels... The second you walk into the Valley of the Kings and into one of these tombs and you start walking these tunnels going down to the chambers, they are, every single square inch is covered from the doorway all the way a quarter mile or 300 yards, whatever it is, to the burial chamber, covered every single square inch with hieroglyphics. And they're all colorful.
And the hieroglyphics are stories and that talk about the pharaoh and perhaps their... process to go into the underworld. There's all different kinds of things on the walls, but it's so colorful, so detailed and even the ceiling, you just look up and you're like, oh my gosh, like you're enveloped in color, in Egyptian history, in hieroglyphics, and it is amazing. And then you get to the far chamber with this massive sarcophagus that you wonder how they could even create or move that lid even. I don't know. It's amazing. It's so cool. I can't.
All right. I think everybody knows that they should probably go.
Get the picture.
They get the picture. They should probably go and see the Valley of the Kings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think about the overall experience of the cruise? Because at this point, we get off the boat and we fly back to Cairo.
I just thought the whole experience in Egypt was exotic. It was different. It felt really foreign and cool and unique. The history there is different from the history that we learn when you go to Rome or Paris. So it felt just very, very different, and I love that. The cruise itself was beautiful and relaxing, but yet not. I don't know. I would definitely recommend all the things we did. I wouldn't have wanted to miss anything. I wouldn't have wanted to do a shorter tour.
But you did miss some things.
What did I miss?
You missed filet, and we should probably maybe that's a good that's a great sequence, right? To go into. There's a thing called over there, much like Mexico's Montezuma's Revenge. It's called Pharaoh's Revenge. Julie.
Yeah, this is the non-sexy part of this conversation, but also super imperative for a traveler. So I think pretty much everybody on our ship, certainly everybody in our group, except for you.
Except for me.
I don't know, good karma or something. But all of us missed something. And it's because we had really bad stomach upset. So I don't know. We all tried to figure out what the heck was it that was making us sick. You know, was it not eating, or was it eating fruit that wasn't peelable? Like,
yeah, it wasn't washed.
Eat a banana because you have to take the skin off. But
right.
An apple, you're just biting into it. Maybe it had bacteria. Or salad. You know, who knows? We couldn't figure out anything that was the thing. My advice, it's got to be talked about. My advice would be when you go to the buffet and you serve all your stuff from you're touching all the handles and the spoons and the whatever, sit down at your table before you do anything. That's when you use your hand sanitizer. Not before you get to the buffet room or the dining room, but literally before you eat.
Good point.
That's the only thing I could think of is we're all touching the same handles on the buffet for the tongs and stuff. That might help. I don't know. We couldn't determine anything else. But just make sure you bring your Pepto-Bismol, your Imodium, and preferably get an actual prescription from your physician before you even go on the trip, because that's going to keep you safe, and take it immediately if you start to feel anything. So I know this isn't a kind of souvenir that anybody wants to bring home with you, is this stuff, but whatever.
No. In fact, some of our people did bring home that souvenir.
For days. Yeah.
Better souvenirs to bring home would be, we got really beautiful, colorful scarves, some spices that we got in each town. By the way, they'll tell you when you go to them, like, Luxor's good for this, Aswan's good for that, alabaster here, gold here, different things. So they'll tell you where to go, and you listen to your guides, because they're going to tell you, listen, don't buy off the street in these places. You got to buy from this. Here's a ballpark price of how much to spend for these things, and they'll tell you, don't spend more than that, because if you do, you're getting taken.
Yeah.
Because
so like when you go to the market, he'll say, "This is a T-shirt should cost this, no more." If they're trying to get more out of you, forget it. Walk away.
Alabaster statues and pyramids, they were really cool. Got to get the real ones though.
And those, he said, are in Luxor.
Yeah.
You wait till Luxor.
Soccer shirts. If you're a fan of soccer, there's a plethora of them, because soccer's really big.
Or football.
Football. Sorry, Tom's in the background like, yeah, geez, Americans.
It's like it's not soccer.
Essential oils and perfumes. Papyrus and lotus flower make some very beautiful perfumes, and we got some of those at a perfume shop.
You got some of those because I was laying in bed.
Yeah, I bought her some perfume because she was laying in bed.
Turns out if your husband feels really bad for you, he buys you more things than you
There
would
you
have
go.
otherwise.
Traditional clothing, I bought a Galabella.
Yeah.
And then there's cutout lanterns for like candle ambiance. There's just a lot of stuff. And by the way, all very, very cheap. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money to bring home a lot of souvenirs.
Oh, we did bring home a really cool coffee mug too.
Yeah.
That was made in Egypt, and it's stamped. Remember on the bottom, it's stamped. It doesn't say made in China. It'll actually have like an Egypt
It's
stamp.
an E. It's got an E on the bottom. So
yeah, so that's kind of cool. So, I mean, all in all, Egypt was beautiful. It has a very complex history. The people were super friendly. We felt really, really safe, and that's one thing I really want to convey. Every time people, like we'd say we're going to Egypt, they would say, "Is that safe?" Yes, it's safe, but highly recommend booking an organized tour, whatever company that is, you do you, but they handle the logistics, and that's just really, really super helpful. We're very grateful to our friends who might be listening to this podcast at some point in time. We're grateful that they invited us along because it was just a spectacular experience for all of us.
we enjoyed having being on a trip with almost all of you. Just kidding. No, we loved all of you. We miss you guys, and we've been talking about our trips.
Yep.
So
we've got memories we've made forever. That camel ride.
Oh my gosh.
Will never be forgotten. But yeah, so we're just very appreciative of all the wonders and the memories.
And, you know, one thing that we also want to say here is before we go is a big shout out. Thank you to the Boat Pod for having us in here and doing the recording thing. Tom in the room, and we got some producers in the other room helping us out. Roxy.
Probably laughing at us because
Sophie.
You know, it's not a perfect situation.
But because this is new to us, we haven't done this, and we're excited to be here doing this. So thank you very much to them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie, and also to everybody that's listening and now maybe watching, because we haven't had one on YouTube with video for a while. So hello.
I keep forgetting to look at the camera.
Thank you for participating with us and following along with us. We would appreciate any kind of feedback. Mm-hmm. You know, follow us, like us, hug us, kiss us, whatever you can do.
I don't even know what that means. But, you know, YouTube, Facebook.
Anyways, until next time,
Wheels up.